welcome to the North Bank podcast, where as ever I'm joined by Stef and Chris. Hello, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning. It's unusual for us to be recording in the morning. This is the Sunday morning after the Saturday evening Palace, victory. I was going to say resounding victory, but it didn't. It was an odd experience. It didn't quite feel like that. I know on the WhatsApp group, me and you, Chris, were kind of sharing anxieties. I have no idea what it must have been like in the actual ground itself. I mean, the away fans were loud as ever at Palace. How was it, Steph? You were at the game. What was it like?
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, games around Christmas are always tinged with that kind of joyful spirit anyway. But the fact that we'd just come off an eyebrow-raising win in the League Cup, it all seemed pretty positive. And of course, when you're watching the game, you get lost in the chants and, you know, what's going on sort of around you in the live experience. But yeah, there were a few sort of funny looks to each other about some of the moments in the game, which were perhaps not as, elite level as they could have been. But overall, really good.
Yeah, I just find it funny that when you said, games at this time of year are tinged with like that joyfulness and so on. I thought, well, not if you're a City fan.
Stay humble, guys.
Because it was an odd morning, 12:30 kickoff, the Villa City game. But it was the first City game, the first game in this run they are on, where I was actually really confident that Villa would win beforehand. Like, really, I didn't think for a second City would get... It would have been a shock had City got anything from the game. How mad is that? It's taken 12 games for that cloak of invincibility, that, impenetrable backline. You cannot keep them out. They will score a goal and then another and another and another, gone. And Villa were dominant. Like, I think Pep said we were good in the first half. I didn't think so. Villa could have been 2-0 up after like 3 minutes. And then they did score, and then they missed another chance and another chance. And it's just a thing of beauty watching it. Like, no tension whatsoever. And then I'd think of Arsenal away at Palace later on and think, that's where the tension's going to come in. And it did, even in a 5-1 victory. What the hell?
Well, there were 10 minutes to go. You were saying at 4-1 up, I think we might hang on and I'm not sure. And it was all a bit cagey.
I think I said, I'll relax if we get a fifth.
Yeah. And I was thinking, if we blow this, it really is, we've got problems. But it was that kind of game, wasn't it? It was just, we never felt comfortable until that fourth, really.
Even then. Well, look, go back to the team news. And, okay, so Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Lewis-Skelly. Delighted Lewis-Skelly kept his place. I think it was warranted. And then the front three, Saka, Jesus and Martinelli, caught us by surprise a little bit in terms of positioning. Both me and Steph suggested that Jesus would start on the left, so Martinelli wouldn't play, but we assumed that Havertz would play up top, and we'd have at least two defensive-minded midfielders there, so Partey and Rice, or Partey and Jorginho, fine. But he didn't go for that. He went for quite an attack, and I said that before the game. I said, that's a bit attacking for my liking. Just Partey as the kind of single defensive kind of protection in front of the back two, with Havertz and Ødegaard making up the middle three. And if we go back over my WhatsApps, I kind of repeated that we have nobody in midfield. There he goes again, charging through the midfield. Oh, that's a famous old quote, that is, isn't it? Charging through the midfield. No challenge, or he's just got the freedom of the park in the middle, time after time after time. What was it like in the ground, Steph? First half, we scored after 6 minutes. Jesus again. They equalised on 11 minutes, and then we scored on 14, 15 minutes. So those first 15 minutes, how'd they feel like to you? It was a bit chaotic.
It was chaotic, but as a person in the away end watching it live, it was also exciting as well. Those highs, those lows, the back and forth between the fans and all that kind of thing was really good. The fact that it was Jesus who scored, added to the buoyancy and the kind of bewilderment of, you know, his seeming return to form and certainly contribution to the team. So that sort of added to that. You said about Lewis-Skelly in the lineup, and I just wanted to throw some flowers his way, because it's not just that he looks, you know, like a good player at this level. His confidence in getting the ball while under pressure, shielding the ball, holding players off. You know, this is a kid in footballing terms, but he's up for it. He's up for the duels. He's up for the fight, and he could be a really, really good.
He's got the physicality to match the confidence as well, hasn't he?
That's what I noticed him about his frame, because I don't know, there's something in his demeanour that makes him seem quite small.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, he's about as tall as Saka. He reminded me in his physique from seeing him live there. You know, he actually is a similar sort of profile to Timber, maybe in their sort of build.
Certainly, say I bet Timber at 17 or 18 would be similar.
Yes, that's probably right. Yeah, absolutely. So you know, he was good in that respect. But I suppose the negative was their goal, and everyone was just annoyed that it seemed so easy. It was straight lines, it was through us, it was without much pressure, and there was something off. And I think you've sort of hit upon as to the reason why, and it was Arteta's trying to strike this balance. We know we are very good defensively, and I'm not blaming Havertz for this, but he's moved Havertz back slightly into the Declan Rice or the Marino position, if you want to call it, that sort of left 8. But Havertz is obviously much more of a forward-thinking player. So you're absolutely right. That left Thomas Partey kind of on his own to fight fires. And while he did okay, in the Premier League, Palace are a good side. You know, they're going to exploit that. And what I noticed about Palace was that they were trying to overwhelm the central areas. You know, they were packing players more narrow, perhaps with Eze out, and but even Ismaila Sarr, who's nominally a winger, I think, was also coming inside, and they pressed really well. They did a thing, I don't know because I'm not a coach or anything, but what I seemed to notice was their press wasn't necessarily on the player with the ball, but it was almost like as soon as that player shapes to pass, the trigger was then for 2 or 3 players to try and overwhelm the player receiving the ball or any options he might have. And that really unsettled us because we had to then, you know, up our game and play at such a sort of high rate. What that then did was put Saliba and Gabriel under pressure, so that when they made, you know, it might be a headed clearance or a pass out or whatever, it was all a little bit rushed. So, you know, there were times when we lost the ball and it seemed like a very uncharacteristic performance from Saliba and Gabriel. And I think a lot of that was down to the way Palace were trying to, stop what we were doing. The good thing was that they couldn't really sustain it. And where we've had half chances before and they've not gone in, well, today, you know, Jesus, his confidence is back, he's smiling, and, you know, everything he touched.
Well, his first finish was okay. I mean, he didn't leather it. He kind of hit it powerfully, but placed it as well.
He seemed to have such a long time to run up to the ball and place it in. That was what surprised me.
But Chris, what do you think of his second finish?
Oh, yeah. It had a sort of bit of whip on it as well from such a short distance when Partey just laid it back to him. And if you watch that as a camera angle that's right behind him, like I said, he's whipped it and it's gone with pace and just come inside the left hand stick as it is to the keeper. Emphatic, and it's like his finish, his little dinked finish, the first that he scored on Wednesday, that with such confidence and aplomb of someone who's been at it for months. Player who's got those two different finishes. And even then, the third goal against Palace on Wednesday, where he had all the time in the world. Like, they're very different goals, all of them. His header that came off the post that Havertz put in, I mean, it's a brilliant header. Where the hell has that been? Well,
that's a complete forward.
Yeah, but isn't it good that it is there and that we've kind of discovered it or he's discovered it and that we should just hope it continues, you know? What more can we...
Well, his miss after that, I jokingly tweeted on
That's
message, that's his scoring run over when he was so casual and...
The simplest of all.
And again, for us though, and maybe an indication that maybe our luck has turned a little bit, we did score from it. So
from the header.
From the miss as well. The ball went back out to Declan Rice. Declan Rice kind of cross-shotted in, and Martinelli. That's where Martinelli got his goal from.
Yeah.
So the two misses, the headed miss. I don't blame him for the headed miss. It was a fantastic header. The keeper was rooted to his spot, was convinced it was going in, and Havertz was brilliant in his kind of. He was the only one who was proactive in the entire penalty area, anticipating something, and he got his rewards for that. And the Jesus kind of the really casual miss where he's centre a goal and he just never had given the keeper a chance.
Yeah.
Well, we scored from that as well anyway, so it wasn't kind of damaging in any sense. Go on, Steph.
I was just going to say, Havertz now has as many Premier League goals for Arsenal as Eddie Nketiah.
In far fewer minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Can I just play stat dad very quickly? Say just before Havertz scored. Just to show how kind of unbalanced really the team was and misfiring. We had, on just before Havertz scored, just 7 touches inside their box to Crystal Palace's 9. Our XG was 0.26 to their 1.03. And I know I don't want to invest too much in those stats, but it does show you that there was a huge tilt after that. We ended up with 34 touches at the end of the game.
Okay, I'll carry on your stat.
Uncle,
yeah. But on that, it's... Okay, we won the game 5-1. In terms of shots, they had 15 shots, we had 14 shots. We both had 6 on target. We had 3 corners each. Their keepers actually made 1 save. Raya has made 5 saves. 4 of those were diving saves. And the timing of those saves, the Saliba cock up at the back... would it have made it 2-2? I think it was made it 2-2. He pulled off. I mean, he just made himself big. It was. I mean, the key. You know, if that's my striker should be scoring it. But still, great. I couldn't believe he'd saved it. For me, it was a goal all day long. And then he made it 3-1, the double save from the shot that kind of moved a bit, and the header. And again, he should have done better with that header. The striker,
Ollie Watkins vibes.
Yes, it was. Although it was, I'd say Ollie Watkins was slightly easier chance, if you like. And then he had the save from the diving header from Saka, who again should have done better. But I mean, I don't know how much of it is the striker or the attacker should have done better, or actually our goalkeeper's very, very good and his positioning ensured that it wasn't as easy a chance as it should have been, and his positioning made the striker or the attacker think more about his, positioning or placement, if you like. But I thought Raya, I know, Steph, you mentioned it or you tweeted it out and I put it on the WhatsApp group. There was an argument to say that Raya was as much a man of the match as Jesus or anybody else because of the timing of his saves. Very different game.
Not according to the old bloke behind me who had a proper go at me when I suggested that, because he was there saying Partey should have been given the man of the match. Okay, I'm going to go on a rant. Old guy behind me, he's on the side. I'm not going to name him because that wouldn't be fair. But he's there talking about Partey being on the match. Oh, he's been good tonight. And I said, well, I mean, look, he's been okay. He's been fighting fires on his own a little bit. But actually, I think you've got to look at someone like David Raya, although Jesus will obviously get the plaudits for his goals. I mean, he literally laughed in my face and said, the goalkeeper, what a better than he saved to make. Anyway. Okay, so here's the argument against that. Yeah, top-class keepers at good clubs like us, who normally don't give up many chances, but actually did in this Palace game, it's about being decisive when you're called upon. David Raya probably had more of an impact on the score than any player, because stopping those chances stopped Palace, coming into the game. Like you say, Henderson only made one save. He let 5 goals in, so he should have saved more. Whereas Raya made those saves, and we scored 5. So I just think his impact on the way it sort of came out, we had that safety net at the back, let alone the fact, decisive on crosses and catching, distribution okay, nothing wild or anything like that, but was okay, but called upon when he needed to be. I thought David Raya was excellent yesterday and
absolutely.
really decisive in the way the game went out.
Go on.
Here also is some stats. I've got some stats, which are pretty damning on supposed man of the match, Thomas Partey, right? Up to the 58th minute.
I hope this bloke. Did you tell this bloke you ran a podcast and give him the?
No, he looked too old to know what a podcast is, to be honest. If I'm not, so I'm horrid to be disrespectful, but there you go. Right, up to the 58th minute before Declan Rice was introduced, Arsenal conceded 1.66 xg. We conceded 13 shots, 6 of which were on target, and 3 of them were considered big chances, okay? You introduced Declan Rice, okay, for Havertz, so shoring it up, a more defensive-minded player. All of a sudden, we concede 0.06 xg to Palace. They have 2 shots, none on target, no big chances. And this is Declan Rice, who bags himself a goal and assist. Because Partey needed that help. If Partey was man of the match, he wouldn't have been that. Now, it's not necessarily Partey's fault, because ultimately he was a one-man defensive midfield. It had shades of like Granit Xhaka when he was played as a sole defensive midfielder, and it wasn't really his game. So yeah, excuse me while it was the laughing at the temerity for me to suggest the goalkeeper who made 2 brilliant saves and kept us in the game.
It's all about opinions, isn't it? Football.
Yeah, opinions are like arseholes, and everyone's got one.
Can I give you 2 things on the Rice stats? I think just in slight mitigation, you got to look at game state. Within 2 minutes of Rice coming on, we'd scored our 4th goal, and Palace started making substitutions of their kind of saving players again. They'd given up the ghost on the thing. So the game was over 2 minutes after Rice came on. And also, certainly in the first half, Partey was unlucky in the sense that he had a very, and Chris, you pointed this out, he had a very nervy Saliba behind him. And that I don't know which came first. Saliba and Gabriel a little bit more exposed, or Saliba a little bit jittery, and then Partey kind of looking slightly more vulnerable. I don't know. Yeah, so what did you put Saliba's performance down to first half? I don't remember him in the second half, so I'm assuming he was okay. He
got
grew
it
into
together
the game.
more. Yeah. I think it's a conflation of those twos, that they were swarming around us more, and I think that moment he lost the ball, he had 2 men on him, and it's uncharacteristic.
Did you see him? He went to pull the strike. You can see his thought process. It's like, yeah, and then he stopped.
Yeah, because it was Gabriel that got a card, I think, on the half hour for tugging back.
He did, yeah.
Brilliant after that.
So, yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's a conflation of those things, that Palace were all around him, but also it's just a ricket. It's just one of those days for him. So we know that he's elite. It won't, unlikely to happen again, certainly with both of them having the jitters in the same game.
Yeah, and it ultimately hasn't cost us. And it's something that, I mean, okay, you could argue that 58 minutes is quite early to make a change, but I was calling out for the extra body in midfield long before the 58th minute. However, he at least, or the 56th minute, whatever it was, however, he did do that at least. Other things to note in the first half, for me, we'll get on to Saka in a second. We picked up, did we pick up 2 yellow cards for time wasting in the first half? We certainly picked up one. Timber at fullback, but didn't Miles Lewis-Skelly get a yellow card? He certainly got a talking to, as did Raya get a talking to.
But they never got carded.
Did they not get right? So I got a little bit cross with us for so blatantly delaying, but I wonder, is it the crowd were on the referee's case straight away with our perceived delaying tactics, and I wonder is it a little bit of reputation as well. But then I look at the amount of I didn't like it. Is there any need for it? I mean, do we need to be doing that? Do we need to be winding up the opposition to that extent? Is it about disrupting their flow or kind of piercing the atmosphere, which it doesn't really have that impact? It has the reverse impact, if anything. Do we need to do it? Were you aware of it, Stef, in the ground, that we were taking an age with?
Yeah. And I think it is absolutely fine to be annoyed with us because, like you say, it doesn't seem to, in terms of that slowing the game down and trying to wrestle control, you'd think that it would give us an advantage, but it didn't seem to be doing that. So therefore, all it was doing was highlighting the fact that we were doing it, would annoy their fans, the referee would react, and so on and so forth. What annoys me, though, is there was a moment, literally just in front of where the away fans are at Selhurst Park, Palace were shaping up for a long throw that easily took as long as any of our sort of throw-ins, but whether it's because we didn't react in that kind of petty way or whether, the
context is different, isn't it? They're losing, so you would question why would you take longer?
Yeah, maybe.
And also,
as a referee.
Timber was delaying a throw in our own half. He wasn't sizing up and he was kind of creeping further and down the touchline. I was like, you're an idiot. We've been penalised by this before. I mean, who got Tommy Asu at Palace? Wasn't it at Palace?
Yeah.
He got red carded for it. It's like, it's obviously instructions from Arteta.
One would think, yeah, but they just seem such stupid yellow cards to probably get. Bigger picture, following Qatar 2022, I thought the remit was going to be basically just add it on at the end. And if we have 10 minutes of injury time, well, that's on you because you took so long to get the bloody ball in play. That's obviously fallen by the wayside because any new rules that come in just get done for a few weeks and then ignored. So the trick now is basically to book Arsenal players when they do it. So I don't know. It's just.
I think what you said, Steph, about trying to wrest control when it's not going your way, I think there's a natural default in a team to just go, right, okay, every time we get a dead ball, we're going to just take our time. Exactly, because that is by itself in itself a way of gaining control. Now, whether it plays out like that is another matter. When we're at our fluent best, we're not hanging around. We're like, there's the movement, everyone's running around. Whereas I think in this instance, the idea was to try and wrest some control.
I wonder also if there's a set piece psychology element to it. I can't remember what the term is, but there's these things in various sports about kind of like centering yourself and blocking out all the noise. So tennis players will go through a routine before they serve. Johnny Wilkinson's famous sort of cupped hands and looking at the posts before he took a kick in rugby. And I wonder if now we've got such detailed set piece routines, even from throws. It'll be the player that comes short that then creates a bit of space behind him for another player to run into. So the person with the ball is all about buying time for those players to then get themselves in position and remember what routine that it is they're going to do. But ultimately, it's just so easy to pick up on because of the time that's being wasted.
The other notable thing that happened in the first half, aside from the 4 goals, was it 4 goals? Yes, it was, is Saka's injury. Now, on 31 minutes, and we were kind of given a little bit of hope by Arteta when he suggested it was precautionary, but then the video doing the rounds of Saka on crutches and struggling on crutches, unless he was, directed by Arteta to do this, you've got to fear the entire month of January. If that's a reasonably problematic hamstring tear, then it's 4 to 6 weeks. If he's lucky, it could be 3 months. I've seen various fan sentiment from other clubs as well, saying that this was inevitable. This was just a consequence of him being overplayed for club and country, and he's had a couple of little minor warnings so far, and this is it. It's gone. If you look at the action he did it on, he kind of awkwardly crossed the ball with his right foot, and straight away you could see that he's, whatever movement that has done internally is kind of damn. I mean, look, we can keep everything crossed, but he certainly won't be available for Ipswich, which is fine. I mean, we should have plenty to deal with Ipswich. The other thing I want to say about the Saka injury is Arteta's response to it. Bringing Trossard on, I know Sterling wasn't available, but bringing Trossard on and moving Martinelli to the right, Martinelli actually played really well from the right.
Yeah,
I thought he was much better from the right than he was from the left. Now, if he's known to be starting there every game, well then obviously teams are going to set out defensively against him differently to how they would against Saka, because Martinelli is going to go down the outside a lot more than he's going to cut in onto his left foot, you would imagine. I would that's more natural. But Chris, what did you think of, well, first of all, thoughts on Saka, then Arteta's response to it, and then how do you think Martinelli played? I mean, he got, again, his first goal in 58 years or something, whatever it is. But
harsh. Well, the Saka thing, I think we're in that place with him that we just don't have a viable backup. So he's been played more than we would want him to. You know, if Sterling was firing, we would be able to rotate them more, but that hasn't happened. He had a hammy, didn't he, when he was pulled out of England duty? I think that was a hammy as well. I don't know if it's the same leg.
Who would you play? Because I've just had the thought. Martinelli, Jesus is an option from the right. That's where he played a lot of the time for City.
Yeah, well, I would. I mean, on the evidence of Martinelli, he has played there before. I like that traditional winger kind of thing of just pinning to the touchline on his favoured foot and able to, get crosses in, but even just, it's not even about getting to the byline and getting crosses in, it's just being on your favoured side and being able to, because on the left, it's kind of getting a bit predictable with the check back. And
okay, do you think he would work, he would dovetail with Ødegaard and Timber in a similar way to Saka on the right?
Well, it's never going to be as fluent, is it, because of the relationship that's been built? It's not going to automatically happen, but it will be something different, and whether or not that happens, that we'll just have to wait and see. I don't think it's one of those that you can assume is going to just immediately gel. Would
Jesus be a better fit there than Martinelli?
At the moment, I think he's probably favouring Jesus in the central role, but it's a toss of a coin, because it comes down to form as well, doesn't it? Would you? I'll turn that on to you. What do you think on current form you would rather put Jesus out on the right instead of Martinelli?
Okay, then I'll throw it back onto you.
I'll raise you.
If you play Jesus centrally, are you starting Havertz in the starting 11?
I don't know how many times he started in a left 8 this year, but I bet it's not many. And I wasn't a fan of it yesterday, as evidenced by the kind of slight kind of imbalance of the team.
So does he start? Play Jesus on the right, and I'd play Havertz.
You play him on the
through
right,
the middle, and Martinelli, Trossard on the, or play Jesus on the left. I mean, you could argue that his first goal yesterday was from the left. Well, it was from the left. He was hugging the left touchline as the play was developing over the far side, and he just drifted in completely unchecked by anybody.
The tenacity he showed for the 5th goal as well. The ball was kind of heading out, and he chased it down and brought it back in. No, look, fair point. This is lovely to have these kind of dilemmas, really.
Well, apart from the fact it's in the absence of Saka.
but look, we're talking about two, players who are relatively okay. Martinelli has been hot and cold, but yesterday I thought he had a really good game.
And our run of fixtures isn't as hard as it could be. Even in January, there's plenty of games, but we've got United in the FA Cup, annoyingly. Spurs at home in the league, I think, is the only one of the big 6 upcoming. I mean, look, we're away to Brentford and Brighton in consecutive games. That's tough. But should we be able to win those games without Saka playing? Well, yes, we should. But obviously, we'd rather he was playing. But Steph, what's your thoughts then on, let's assume Saka is out for 4 to 6 weeks or thereabouts. How do we best accommodate other players or systems or...
Well, I think as he sort of mentioned, that first goal yesterday sums it up in that we've got to be adaptive and rotate and be flexible because I'm looking at Ipswich and I'm thinking that is a game where you could get away with Jesus in the number 9 and Havertz in the left 8 because you would expect more possession, you'd expect to dominate the game, etc., etc. When you go away to Brentford and Brighton and you know that it's a tough place to go, well, then you might need to be a bit conservative. And if it's a case of who's on form, maybe Havertz drops out, Marino or Rice and Partey come in to try and shore up the midfield a little bit. And in terms of the wings, I mean, yeah, you might pick Martinelli on the right and Trossard on the left, but rotate, move around. You know, for that first Jesus goal, Martinelli had gone central and Jesus had come out wide. Keep the defence guessing. You know, Saka on the right is nailed down in that position because he's world class, and that's fine because even when opposition try and solve that problem of Saka, well, they do themselves in because you know what Saka might do, but he's too good to be stopped, or you end up overloading trying to stop him and then you free up space elsewhere. Well, with him not there, actually variety and unpredictability is probably going to be the key for it. I think sometimes Martinelli and Trossard are too predictable on the wings. And Trossard yesterday, just every time, cut back, cross with his right, cut back, cross with his right, too easy. But him centrally sometimes has kind of worked. Jesus, the thing about Jesus, he's not a proper number 9 because when you play him in the number 9, he just sort of does pop up anywhere. So that's an advantage in its own way, maybe for Havertz to then drift forward and fill in. So I think also maybe it would avoid one of them pinging a hamstring or something if they're able to come in and out of the side a little bit, because January is pretty packed now with cup matches, league matches in midweek, League Cup matches that will take place at some point. So, you know, we've got to be canny. Are we good enough to go and win those games? Yeah, sure. But we've got to be, committed and as fit and firing as possible. Well,
I mean, we're ignoring the obvious fact here that we'll sign Alexander Isak on the 1st of January, and so we'll have him.
4-year contract. Get over it. He's not coming.
Listen, just because old Eeyore here is poo-pooing on my... It's Christmas, it's a time of dreams and fantasy and magic, Steph.
Oh, God.
I don't care what he costs. It's not my money. I could not care less.
It's imaginary money.
Pay whatever it takes because he would be... How old is he? 24?
Yeah, I don't know.
He would be the difference maker for us moving forward.
He is very, very good.
It wouldn't be, we wouldn't just be getting him for Christmas.
I do wonder if at the end of the season, say, they finish outside the top 4, which is probably likely, whether there will be an opportunity. I think Guimaraes is more likely to leave and go to City, but let's see.
I don't know who'd go to City. Yeah, I don't know who'd go to City until that's...
With a big asterisk, depending on the results of it.
Look, David Ornstein even said over the weekend at some point that if Arteta could have his ideal striker, it would be Isak. He's always wanted him, but for some reason we didn't take the plunge. Isak had posted really low numbers in his last season in Spain, and I think that put off Arteta from going for him, but he's always been the player closest in style to Henry. You know, his laconic kind of running with the ball, and you know he does he's effortless across the turf, and I think that's it's just like I'm yearning for past glories, but I can see that the final piece of the jigsaw. You're not going to double up on or triple up on Saka when Isak's in the team, because you can't. Because he can damage you. He can score a goal out of nothing. He can score from outside the area. He can dribble past 2 or 3 defenders and score. He can create. He hasn't created many assists this season, but he's clinical in the box and outside the box. He's got physical presence as well. And again, like, he does have slight injury issues, but as I mapped out in the last podcast, I think that's 14 of 16 games he's played for Newcastle in the league this season. So I know, Steph, it's unrealistic purely down to the amount of money it would take to get Newcastle to... the only way it could work in January is if he started agitating himself. That's the only way it could work. And do I want him to agitate? Yes, I bloody do.
Doesn't strike us as...
I want a player who's prepared to do that? To join Arsenal? Yes, I bloody do. Right? I don't care. I can't remember what I was asking because I've just gone off into dreamland about Isak. I have circled Nwaneri. Talking about, using the squad and offering something different, and it was nice to see Nwaneri and Ødegaard on the pitch at the same time. There were a couple of little moves Nwaneri did, which just reflected his... He controlled the ball dropping out of the sky. And he did this kind of drag back turn. Mm-hmm. And to the point where, because the camera was a bit far away at that moment, and I thought, who was that? That was good. And then it was him. And I just want to see more of him in situations where he's not our last chance or last throw of the dice kind of thing. But he's somebody who could play on the right-hand side as well, as an option. Because he's not, Arteta said that he could be a left winger, right winger, that he's not exactly a left 8, right 8 in the mould of Ødegaard, and we shouldn't be comparing him to Ødegaard in that sense. So maybe there are more minutes on the cards for him.
Yeah, like you said though, the game state it makes it easy for him to come on and try those turns. When you put him on 0-0 against Everton, and it's a lot more difficult.
Well, yeah, no reflection on him though.
No.
Okay. Second half, other highlights. Martinelli getting his first goal in quite a while. Rice, lovely finish, his first Premier League goal of the season. And you've already mapped out or alluded to the impact he made, first 58 minutes without him, final 37 minutes, whatever it was with him, night and day in terms of a team performance, certainly. And again, I just wonder, will we look back on this game, forgetting about the nervousness at various points, forgetting about the reliance, the timely impact of Raya with his saves, and think, well, actually, Jesus has got his first league goals in God knows how long, 24 games. Martinelli's got on the score sheet and had a reasonably good game as well. And Declan Rice has found a bit of mojo again. And I wonder, are these we'll look back and these are the players who have actually kicked on and got us through January in the absence of Saka. I'm being doom and gloom with regards to Saka, and I really hope he's back for Brentford and Brighton away. That'd be great. So maybe we'll look back and think, that this was not a turning point. The only other thing I want to say about the 5-1 is that was the 6th different away game in 2024 that we've scored 5+ goals. Mm-hmm. That is now a top flight record in this country. I can't remember who we were level with, but it was a team from 1938 and there was two other, was it 1910 or something? I don't know. But now no other team has scored 5+ goals away from home in 6 matches in a calendar year before. And I know Le Grove is banging on. I think that's 27, 29 goals since the international break, and only 7 of those have been from set pieces. And more open play goals, more fluency in attack. It just didn't feel like a 5-1 game whilst I was watching it. But
then we've played a lot better and not won. So we take it and we move on.
Speaking of moving on, today, so we're recording Sunday morning, Chelsea travel to Everton this afternoon and Liverpool travel to Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. No, sorry.
Sorry, what?
Oh, listen, I'll sit. No, you're joking, a draw. No. That makes no sense at all. I'm Arsenal first and foremost. I will sit there in a white, I don't have anything Spurs related, but I'll sit there in a white t-shirt if it means Spurs beat Liverpool this afternoon. Happily. Because before we play Ipswich next, Liverpool play twice. So they play away to Spurs and home to Leicester. Now, with all the goodwill in the world, Leicester are getting nothing out of that trip to Anfield. So the only chance we've got of gaining any points over this Christmas period is if Spurs do something against Liverpool. Now, obviously, Spurs will kind of roll over and, have their tummies tickled because beating Liverpool would benefit Arsenal because that's how Spurs operate. But
they haven't got a defence, Holly.
Yeah, they haven't, but they were comfortably 3-0 up against United.
Yeah, and then
that game ended then, though, didn't it?
It would be very Spursy of them to beat Liverpool and then just cock it up the next game.
Yeah, and I'm here for that. Realistically, I don't expect Spurs to get anything out of the game today. I don't, but I would love it if they could. Even a draw.
I'd take a point right now.
I'd take a draw for sure. 2 points dropped. But the only thing is I don't want to be... It would be nice not to be 9 points behind Liverpool when we next play. It just would be frustrating with the 2 draws against Everton and Fulham that we haven't... With Liverpool drawing against Fulham and Newcastle, that we haven't capitalised on that at all. That would just be a bit frustrating, I think. Even if we were 7 points behind, I'd think, okay, fair enough. Well, we've closed that gap a little bit. And we kind of need Chelsea to start dropping a few points as well. And Everton away could be, a difficult game. I mean, look, if Everton will approach the game the way they did against us, and I still think we're a better team than Chelsea, but hope springs eternal. Chelsea then are at home to Fulham on Boxing Day, and we're at home to Ipswich on the 27th. I haven't looked beyond that in terms of games. Are you guys going to the Ipswich game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you indoctrinating somebody, Steph?
Yeah, I'm taking my little nephew to his first Arsenal game. He doesn't know that yet, but
I hope he's not listening.
I don't think he does. He is only 9. I'm not sure many 9-year-olds listen to 3 middle-aged men talk about football, but there we go. Stranger Things.
I mean, we won't really talk about that, but Chris, what are your hopes for the Ipswich game?
Oh, it's another fabled must-win, really, isn't it? And I'd fully expect us to put them to bed 3 or 4-0.
Steph?
Well, I was just going to say, because just for the sake of our little prediction league that we sort of, I'm keeping a track of, I might take your Ipswich predictions now, kind of gut feelings, but I want to preface mine with this. Okay.
If you're going to say a draw...
Shut up. Because there's context in this, because I take full responsibility for the 4 points that we've lost in this run, because since the last international break, okay, first game, I predicted a draw, but we beat Forest 3-0. Then the next game, okay, this one went okay, I predicted a win, 2-1, but we beat West Ham 5-2, and this is where it gets interesting. Then I predicted a draw against Man U, but we won. I predicted a win against Fulham, but we drew. I predicted a win against Everton, but we drew. And then I was back to predicting a draw yesterday, and we won 5-1.
But it's not a prediction then, is it? It's not a prediction though, is it then? It's just what do you call it? Like biting the head off the jelly baby at the same point when you're on your way to the ground, a la Nick Hornby. Yep. It's just a
superstition.
So it's not a prediction. So
there's a pattern.
I'm not interested in your predictions because they're not predictions. You're just going to predict a draw every single game.
Well, I am if it means the outcome of the game is positive.
Okay, I hate to break it to you, Steph. You're not that powerful. There is no correlation between. I know.
This is
I'm sorry.
Revelation. Twist at the end. We should end the episode there because that's a cliffhanger moment.
How will he respond? How will he cope? Will we see Steph again? Because there's no way you can genuinely believe that we will draw at home to Ipswich. You just can't. It's just not. There's nobody with even a kind of a nano sense of football knowledge.
Join the dots, Holly. Join the dots.
There's no dots, mate. There's no dots. There's no dots. I hate to break it to you. So I would go for a pretty resounding thumping 5-0 because I think that's what we should do.
5-0?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do. We've just beaten Palace 5-1, West Ham 5-2. We've scored so many goals. We're home against a team that have just lost 4-0 at home to Newcastle. And I don't know that Ipswich can do to us what Everton and Fulham did to us. I just don't think they're on that level in terms of Premier League nous and experience and skill defensively. I just don't think they have that. So that I don't think they will keep us. Obviously, Saka will be a miss, but not. And in an attacking sense, like you said, at home too, when kind of thinking of a team setup, you think Partey would be absolutely fine on his own in front of a back two at home against Ipswich, allowing for the additional attacking player, Havertz, in that instance. So absolutely, I think it will be I'd be very surprised if it's not a thumping 4 or 5-0 win, just because that's on the basis of football. I can understand after the 2 draws we had, predicting a draw away at Palace. I get that. I can understand. I predicted a 2-1 win. I didn't predict much beyond the 1-1 draw. The only thing that really buoyed me more was the fact that we beat them 3-2 in the previous game, where our better players on the pitch were far superior to their players, and then Eze not playing for them was a big loss for them, because I think had he been playing yesterday, that wouldn't have been a 5-1 game either. He would have really, because that's his position, right in the hole, in the middle. But so Chris, what about you then? You've already suggested a 3 or 4-0.
Yeah, I'll stick with 3, which is slightly more conservative, but I do think it's a must win. I think if Ipswich try and park the bus, I think, like you said, they're not as wily as an Everton or even a Fulham to hold us out. I think we'll breach them. So,
well, can you name an Ipswich defender?
No,
I can't.
The only thing that worries me is they might sack their manager before, and then they'll get Sam Allardyce in, and it will be a new manager bounce.
They're not sacking the manager. They're big fans of him, and they know that they're going to be punching if they do stay up. And accept that if they go down, that's
they'll get their parachute payments.
They've got an interesting fullback, Leif Davis, very attack-minded, young prospect. But yeah, young prospect.
They've got Amari Hutchison, formerly of this parish, via Chelsea, and then their captain more. Oh yeah, so Liam. Is it Liam? Yeah, he was at City, wasn't he? And then they let him go.
Palmer, yeah.
And then they've got their captain Morsey, who kind of courted controversy recently. But I'm not going to give. In
the same way Mark Gahey did when he wrote "I Love Jesus" on his armband, but he didn't state which Jesus, because he must like Gabriel Jesus to let him score 5 goals in 2 games against him. Just saying.
And I agree. We all love Jesus.
We do. Jesus saves.
Especially at Christmas time.
Right, I'm done. Anything else to contribute?
I'm just gonna put out a little plug for the women's, because I've just booked tickets for the Arsenal Spurs derby for the women's game on 16th of February. I'm taking my 3 kids, and it's under £50.
Amazing.
So just putting it out there.
Cherish those moments, because it won't be under £50 for long, will it?
Yeah, but it's just nice to be able to go all together and get seats together. Even struggling to scrambling around to try and get people to give you a seat just for one person to come with you. You know how hard it is for the men's game. Yeah. So there's still loads of seats going as well. So let's fill it out. And
we're on a really good run of form at the moment. So hopefully it'll be a sellout, because it's still, as you say, it's quite a long way off. Excellent. Anything else, Steph?
No, just going to wish you all a happy Christmas, safe travels.
Thank you. Yes, you too, and to our listeners also. And the 2 boys will get together at some point and talk football in my absence, I'm sure. But anyway, have a lovely Christmas, everybody, and I'll personally see you again in the new year. So have a happy new year as well. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at NorthBankPod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company.